This article was originally written by one of our staff writers, Feliciano. After almost a decade in development, Hollow Knight Silksong is finally here. For years, it has been a mainstay in gaming culture, lingering in the minds of players since its announcement back in 2019. Silksong always felt like something too elusive, too mythical, too ambitious to ever actually arrive. But now, at last, it is in our hands. I've always thought that if Silksong ever launched, it would be an unreviewable game. No reviews would really matter since players had already spent years anticipating it. Even if a review did appear right away, most of its audience would already be knee deep in the Pharloom, uncovering secrets for themselves. And that's not surprising. For nearly a decade, every glimpse of Silksong at a PlayStation State of Play or Nintendo Direct would send shockwaves through the gaming community. It became part meme, part myth, and every bit as anticipated as Rockstar's GTA 6. For an indie title to reach that level of hype, that's no small praise. But now that a few days have passed since launch, the idea of it being unreviewable doesn't really hold up anymore. I've been waiting to play Silksong ever since I defeated the Radiants in the original Hollow Knight back in 2018, so let's finally talk about one of this year's most anticipated releases. Does it live up to the hype, or did it become an impossible mountain to climb? Silksong makes its point clear right from the start. It's a completely different experience from its 2017 predecessor. At first, you'll find familiar elements like NPCs who sell maps and pins or bug-themed fast travel systems, but after the initial few hours, that sense of familiarity fades and the game reveals its true scope. And correct me if I'm wrong, Silksong is a much larger game than Hollow Knight ever was, even when counting all of its DLCs. The biggest change in Silksong is, of course, the protagonist. You no longer play as the Silent Knight, but as Hornet, who was a key character from the first game, now taking the spotlight. After being kidnapped by zealots and taken to this mysterious kingdom, Hornet strives to find answers. The setting in Silksong has shifted. Instead of Hallownest's crumbling structures, you explore Pharloom, a land defined by a looming citadel, and it calls our very own Hornet to reach the top. Like its predecessor, Silksong's progression begins with simplicity, but gradually branches out, leaving you in the dark of where to go next, resulting in hours of getting lost. It's a true metroidvania design that I both adore and despise. Pharloom itself feels strikingly different, a sprawling, dark fantasy world that wouldn't look out of place in Berserk or even Dark Souls, albeit with Team Cherry's signature bugs. The level design even borrows some cruelty from Dark Souls' infamous locales like Blighttown, pairing ominous places with a twisted sense of humour. Poison swamps that gradually sap your silk, making you unable to heal, reminded me of the From Software classic. Granted, I see no qualms with this challenge, as this new world is something we're unfamiliar with, but for other players, Silksong isn't designed to be a relaxing experience. It's unapologetically difficult. Let's face it, Hollow Knight Silksong is just one tough game. Compared to the Knight's adventures in Hallownest back in 2017, Silksong has an entirely different level of challenge. Hornet's different combat style reinforces this shift. Unlike the Knight, who had a horizontal pogo bounce and limited traversal powers, Hornet moves with speed and agility, but requires precise execution. Her pogo is diagonal rather than straight down, which takes much more time to master. At first, it did frustrate me, especially when trying to platform across flowers or spikes. It led to plenty of clumsy deaths. But eventually I understood Team Cherry's intent. Hornet as a character is designed to stay in motion, forcing players to adapt to her nimbleness. Gone are the days of spamming slashes and pogoing bosses into submission. Silksong's combat has seen a major improvement, often borrowing signature styles from Soulslike, where most encounters are now more deliberate, demanding constant movement, quick dodges, and the clever use of abilities. Boss arenas have more environmental hazards, and traps are laid everywhere, from simple Tom and Jerry contraptions to tricked out benches. With its massive shift in difficulty, the game now feels closer to a 2D Souls-like than a traditional metroidvania, and that's not a bad thing. One of the best additions to combat in Silksong is Hornet's arsenal of tools. These gadgets add a layer of strategy and customization that was absent from Hollow Knight. This gives you multiple ways to handle tough encounters, giving you more agency before heading your way out to attempt killing the boss again. Everyone's loadout feels unique, making the gameplay experience highly personal. Personally, my favourite tools are the Robobug Companion and Tax, as both are incredibly broken in later game boss fights, trivialising difficult encounters since I can just deploy them and let them do the damage for me. Apart from tools, another system called Crest expands Hornet's gameplay even further. They let Hornet alter her combat style to suit different builds. If her original moveset feels too restrictive for you, you can opt for a slow but high damage dealing crest like the Reaper. If survival is your preference, the Beast Crest allows you to lifesteal after binding your silk. This level of flexibility opens plenty of experimentation and will fuel speedrunning strategies for years to come. Team Cherry's 7 years of development have clearly borne fruit with Hollow Knight Silksong. It is a massive dark fantasy adventure that respects its metroidvania roots while leaning into Souls-like intensity, delivering punishing boss encounters, precise, and often frustrating, platforming, and refreshing combat customization. While I can say that this is a near perfect game, there are also obvious downsides. Silksong's steep learning curve might alienate newcomers as its overall damage can be very exhausting. Boss rushbacks can feel cruel, and contact damage, yes it's back, remains a point of frustration. At one point I found myself dreading one run back that reminded me of my path to Gravelord Nito in the first Dark Souls. I've already seen players give up midway through the first act. While some might dismiss that as a skill issue, the lack of accessibility options is a missed opportunity. Now, I'm not asking for an easy mode, but maybe a way for less seasoned players to still experience the story without having to worry about difficulty would have gone a long way. Things such as difficulty sliders would greatly reduce the frustration, as is evident with the notorious mod that came out soon after launch. Other quality of life improvements like retrying bosses instantly can alleviate brutal runbacks. However, these options should only exist as a separate game mode like Steel Soul, as nerfing Silksong's base game would also cause an uproar in its community, which craves a grueling challenge. It goes without saying that with all its years of hype, Silksong is clearly not a game for everyone, especially for those who buy this out of sheer curiosity. It's a game that's clearly intended for fans of the first game, as it demands patience and is not something you can pick up easily in the first try due to its high skill ceiling. Yet for those who persevere, it reveals itself as a fascinating blend of Souls-like and metroidvania. It doesn't hold your hand, and instead it throws you headfirst into a bizarre bug-filled world daring you to rise to its challenge. And what's even better, all of this depth comes at an astonishing price point of just $20. The game has already offered me 30 plus hours of content and I've barely scratched the surface of its secrets. That's remarkable for a project created by such a small team. It's clear that this is a labour of love, handcrafted by a small Australian studio with an enormous vision and an obvious love for bugs. And for a game that's been elusive for quite some time, it was well worth the wait. We are giving Hollow Knight Silksong an impressive score of 9 out of 10. For more gaming content, please visit our official website at gfinityesports.com.